Alright, here's a sample of my next project. This is just a mock-up model. And you can tell it's just a model. So that's kind of what it looks like. The motor mount here, landing gear, elevons. And another slat plane. Made one conventional type looking wing with the slats. And now we're going to go with this one. I'll probably put a tail wheel on it so I can steer it. Elevons. These are the elevons here. And as you can tell, it's just slats. Here's the firewall. Click down between it. It'll be about 32 inches long. And what else? And about 20 some inches wide, maybe about 30 inches wide, I forget. I'm going to draw up a set of plans and see what it looks like on paper. Okay, I drew up a set of plans. I don't know if you can see this in the video or not, but here's the top. It comes down and around, down, and then I've got my landing gear, and it goes all the way back. I've got a rudder on it. Might be able to see that. And then I've got the cutouts for the slats all the way to the top. And like I say, it's about 32 inches across. My wing, I figured, is going to be 24 to 30 inches. Alrighty, now for this little guy, got the plans all drawn up for the size and shape that I want. I've got my foam board. These are only samples. I got my foam board with paper on the side, paper on the side. I've got 1/2 inch foam, and I peeled the paper on one side. And what I did on this blue color that sticks, it's Artec. On the blue that sticks, I just took some clear tape or color tape, laid it on there and peeled it back, laid it on there, peeled it back, and I pulled all this up because it is a plastic, and I didn't want my glue to be interfered or my bonding area to be interfered with that. So I've taken and did a rough cut for my pattern, and this is for the fuselage. A rough cut, or just basically a plank, a blank, and then I've taken put the Gorilla Glue on here. I scraped it on. I've put my foam board in there, and I sandwiched it. Plastic taken off, plastic left on this side. Bonded those two together. I put some weights on it. I used a piece of particle board and weighted it down with fuel cans. And then when I was done, I had a laminated piece of foam. So the 2/2 inch on the outside and the 1/4 inch of foam board from Dollar Tree in the middle. So then I come up with this. This is my final. So where I've got the glue jointed, I've got the plastic taken off. I left the plastic on this side so I could see the pattern that I've drawn out. You can see the pattern that I've got. I've got my red lines. Right here's where the slats are going to go. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Rudder will go here. This is the bottom half. Obviously the curve and the motor is going on this part here. So that's basically what we're looking at right there. On the other side, like I say, it's sandwiched. Dollar Tree foam board. I had to join a piece together here with hot glue before I put it together. So I've got these laminated with Gorilla Glue. Looks pretty straight. I used particle board on top. Simulate that as particle board, and I put my fuel cans on top of it. What I did was I traced out my pattern, the fuselage with the cutouts. And this is what I ended up with. Just a cutout pattern, basically. Alright, and then the parts that I laminated, poster board in the middle, 1/2 inch foam on the outside, Artec, with my pattern, laid it out, stuck it down with some of this blue tape, painter's tape, and then I took a marker right around the edges here, kind of traced it out, cut it out. This is what I've come up with. It's all cut out, and I've got the plastic here on the surface. I'm going to peel that off. Now, for anybody who plans or thinks that they're going to follow my pattern, just a word of caution: if you intend this thing to last, got to do something a little different. On the lamination, I'm going to peel it back. I'm going to peel back one of the laminations. Here's the 1/2 inch poster board in the middle. The glue sticks to the paper great. That's the Gorilla Glue. But it does peel back off of the poster board. So you've got to make sure that you use another source, another way of gluing it together. Hot glue, I think, is too hot. At least my hot glue is. So just something to think about. If it's going to last for a long time, you got to try something else. So now, got this pattern. I'm going to sand it out. Sand out my curves in the bottom, just so it's nice and neat and clean. I'm going to build a rudder for it, and I'm going to start figuring out putting my wing panels. On the slat plane, I've made a sample, one of the basic wings or slats. These slats right here. That's obviously the sample. And made my slats. These are 24 inches from end to end. 24 inches. And on the leading edge, I hollowed them out, or hogged them out, and put the barbecue skewers that I got at the 99-cent store. And then about 3.5 inches, something like that. About 2.5 inches back, I put the barbecue skewers again, but because they're only 12 inches, I put one on this side and one on this side, and I just butted them together, and I super glued them in. I cut out the groove, I cut out a slot, my blade, and I cut down about 1/8 of an inch, and then I marked it again on both sides and cut a groove out, and then I hogged them out. I used a sharp end of a skewer to dig out all that material. I dropped them in there, pushed them in flush, and where it didn't fit really good, I just went in and used a piece of skewer, round end, and pushed it down, or kind of like pressed it in. Put the skewer in there, super glued it, and it made it pretty rigid, and yet it's pretty light. So the rest of them are going to be made the same way. and then we'll go on to the next part of it. Here's the tail wheel assembly that I decided I'd use. I made it up. It's all about 1/8 plywood, and so nothing fancy. It's also going to be a bell crank, so it's going to be driving this way, and it'll be driving the rudder as well. I've started putting the wings on, the slats. I'm using 5-minute epoxy, just trying to square them up as best I can. Don't know how well it's going to look, or how well it's going to come out, but that'll be it. And I've also done the rudder. The rudder is right there, and I'm going to use these bullet hinges. So continue on. Now that I've got all the slats on, now I've got to put the end caps on. And here's one of them. I've got it all marked out. Hopefully they're going to be close, so then I'll just take and figure out a way to start gluing them on. Alright, that's what it looks like with the end caps on it, wing tips or whatever you want to call them. And now we can go on to possibly making the elevons and or wheels. So we'll see what else I go on. Here's a shot of the rudder. I've got the bullet hinges, 3 of them, and I've got my little tail wheel on the bottom, and it's going to be coupled with the I think it's going to be coupled with the rudder. We'll figure that out later, but when I hook up my servo, I've got a couple of holes here. I was going to set up a pull setup, but may not do that. And so anyways, I've got a little relief here on the rudder. So the throw is that way, good. Throw is this way, good. Good. Alright, landing gear. I decided to go ahead and build it up out of stir sticks from Home Depot or Lowe's, either one. And I did a little drawing here so that I could give myself something to work with. Here's the stir sticks, here's stir stick, here's stir stick, and I'll show you the little blocks that I made on the bottom to give myself some 90-degree flats. And I simulated the foam center section here, and then I put plywood sidewalls on it to give it some strength. And the landing gear looks like, what do I do with it? I lost my landing gear. Alright, here's the end result of the landing gear. The stir sticks from Lowe's, Home Depot. This is a piece of a yardstick here. And then on the sidewalls here, I've got 1/8 ply. And I simulated the fuselage here so that I can take this dummy piece out and then slide it up into the fuselage. And my landing gear is wiffle balls, I think is what they're called. This is about a 1/4-inch dowel, and as you can see, the wiffle balls work great for spinning for wheels. I'm just going to put a block on the end and glue it. And if you can see really good here, what I did to make my landing gear leg blocks, it's just two triangle pieces of hardwood sandwiched in there, squared up, and then I drilled right through them in the center, just like so. And that's what it looks like front where my fingers here. That's the firewall, actually. Firewall right here. And maybe a little overkill, but I figured I'd try something different. So now we got to mount the darn thing. Here's a shot of the landing gear. I just have it pressed on. It's a real tight fit on the fuselage. Got the wiffle balls for wheels. Here's a side view. And we'll give an overall view. Tail wheel, landing gear, the wing, the fuselage. Got to start mounting the motor and hooking up the servos. I mounted the servos. I put some wood plates so that I could use the servos on something else rather than glue them on. And let's see. There's the elevon on one side. That's the rudder. Got the landing gear all set up. Got the battery mounted on the bottom with Velcro and rubber band. 2 screws on each side and anchored with the rubber bands. And on the back here, since the wires are so long, I went ahead and made some anchors. And what they are is just some 1/8 ply, 1 inch wide, inch, depending on how much they have to stick out, inch to half to inch, and then 3/8 embedded into the foam. And then I used some heat shrink tubing, stiff heat shrink tubing, and then I covered them with, I didn't glue them on, I just used white packing tape. I wrapped the wood first, and then wrapped it one more time with the tube so it would hold it on, and it works pretty good. I've got my wiffle balls here, and I've used small tie wraps. See if you can see that. Got some small tie wraps on here. I may put a bead of hot glue just to keep it from falling off. And other than that, I use the infamous credit card horns on it. Let's see, on each side, credit card horns. And then I've got my rudder hooked up here with a easy connector. And one last thing, on the nose of it, I've got a bunch of weight. What I did was, since it was flat there, I put Velcro, and then I put this big weight, stuck it on there with Velcro. I may need it, may not, but I'd rather have it nose heavy. And there's the whole thing right there. Tomorrow's test flight. Okay, let's go flying.